Okay, so good evening, everybody. Good evening, everybody. Please answer me. Let me know.
Good evening.
Yeah. Please, if you're around, just do me one favor first. Just indicate by giving me an emoji to the chat, please, so that I will know I'm talking to people who are physically present, not those who just on their data and then went to the market. Okay. Yeah, so it's a privilege for me to be here. I'm only seeing just Esther, emoji. Yes, and yes, thank you. Please, I just need that emoji. Thank you, Ruth. Okay, so let's begin. So today we'll be looking at the topic, the 7 habits of highly effective people. This is a book written by Stephen Richard Covey, and it's a book that, will I say, is renowned. It's a book that everybody, both in the business world and commercial world and international space, they value so much because the book has made a lasting impact on not only on personal lives, but also on institutions and organizations. You know, it's a book that everybody is advised to go and read. Now, if you have actually gone to the 1 Million Teachers course, especially this new one now, the 7 habits, you discover that he gave an instruction. The first thing he says that the course is not a shortcut, that you must have to first of all go and study the book, the 7 habits of highly effective people. You must go and read that book first. Okay, so that the course is not just a substitution to you reading that book. So, and if you don't read the book itself, you discover that taking that course in the 1 Million Teachers platform is going to be very, very hectic for you. In fact, you cannot progress well. You know, this, the book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, this book, Mr. Akim gave it to me in 2020, I think 2 years ago. He gave it to me to study and then to work on. There was a project we were working on then, and I had the privilege of looking into the book, you know, reading the book, and, you know, I read it just back and forth. I really dealt with the book. I understood it, and I was able to, you know, set some questions based on the project that Mr. Hakim had asked me to do then. So since that 2020, when I went to the book, I tell you, I have never opened the book again. Okay, so it's just recently when I had the course of doing this presentation that I said, okay, let me even go back to the online course. I didn't even go back to the book. I just let me go to the online course, the one in the 1 Million Teachers platform. So I went and I logged in, you know, and I was just feeling cool. After all, I've studied this book before. So I was just thinking that everything is going to go smoothly and easy for me. So I logged in, I said the course, and then it was time for the quiz. I said, this quiz, I'm going to finish it, you know? So I said the quiz. To my surprise, I banged the quiz. Not that I failed it, but my expectation, you know, the passing mark for the quiz is actually 50%. But I was expecting to get at least 90 and 90 something based on how I had actually dealt with the book before. So, but to my surprise, I saw myself, in fact, while I was doing the book, while I was doing the quiz, I was just feeling. I was like, what is happening? Feeling. So it came to my mind to know that, look, that Ishmael, you have left this book for over 2 years now, and you have not gone back to it. Understand? And that makes me to understand that anything you leave, anything you just abandon for a while, before you know it, you have totally forgotten about it. So there is this need, this importance for us to always revisit whatsoever we have studied, especially for those of us who are black belts, who have attained second dan, third dan. Please, we all have to go back. Remember, in fact, that is even the essence of this 1 Million Teachers platform. When you get to the top, go back again, start from white belt. So as I was saying, the quiz, I actually did not perform well. Out of the whole thing, I scored 59. You know, me, I was expecting 90 something. I had to go back again and start afresh to begin to read the book to understand. So that is just a preamble to our study today. So today we'll be looking at the 7 habits of highly effective people. As I said earlier, it was written by Stephen Richard Covey, and he was born in October 24th, 1932, and he died, I think, approximately 10 years ago on July 16th, 2012. And this book is centered on personal effectiveness and how you can live a better life, a successful and a sustained, happy and successful life. That is actually what this book is all about. But before we go further, I would like us to know that today we are not going to go into the habits. We are not going to the 7 habits. We are just going to look at the summary, just touch on some, basic aspects that the book is talking about. Because if you look at the book, you discover that the book has, I think, 3 parts or so, or 4 parts. It has the part 1. The part 1 has to deal with paradigms and principles, and then you have the part 2, which talk about private victory. It talks about the part 3, which talks about the public victory. Okay, so we are looking at only the part 1 today, which has to do with principles and paradigm. So we are just going to summarize it, and then we see how things go. Okay, so but before we start, I'm going to ask a question. Please, if you have read the book itself, either the physical book or you have read it online, can I just see your comment on the chat, please, before I go? If you have read this book, either the physical book or you have read it as an ebook, please let me just see your response, please. I am not talking about you doing it from the 1MT platform. No, I'm talking about if you have read the book itself, not the course on the 1MT platform. If you have read the book, please indicate on the chat box, please. Okay, and I say I'm reading it as an ebook. Fine, fantastic. Have you completed it, Ernest? Okay, we'll see he has. Esther is reading it currently. Okay. Who else again? Okay, somebody said not yet. Started reading it yesterday. Okay, Adobe started reading it yesterday. Thank you very much. Okay, is there anybody that has completed this book before? You have completed the book before. Let me see you. You can type it on the chat, or you can speak to the microphone, unmute yourself and speak. Is there anybody that has finished this book before? Arinze, my boss, have you finished this book before?
Yes, but there's always room for improvement.
Okay, thank you. So Auntie Fatima, are you there with us? Have you read this book before?
No, I've read some of it, but I've never completed it, I must admit.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay, so most of us not yet, just reading it. Okay, so let's go. Now we are going to look at the profile of this author just briefly so that you know, because it was even just yesterday that I knew, or that I discovered that that his middle name is actually Richard. You know, most of the time, what I always see is Stephen Arukovi. I was like, what is happening? What does this arrow stand for? I was guessing maybe it's Raymond or it's something, until I decided to make my research yesterday, and I got the full meaning of that arrow. And that arrow stands for Richard. So he was born in 1992, as I said earlier, and he was a US citizen, and he studied at the University of Utah and obtained his BS. He also went to university, the Harvard University, where he obtained his MBA, and also he attended Brigham Young University, where he obtained his doctorate degree. So he was an author, he was a professional speaker, he was a professor, and he was also a consultant. If you also read the book, you discover that he always, in fact, he started by talking about the wife, but he was always talking about the wife and the family in the book. So he is married to a woman called Sandra Covey, and they had 9 children. And this book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, was actually published in 1989. So you can see that this book is actually an old book. In fact, it's even older than most of us, but not me anyway. It's older than most of us here as teachers. Okay, so that is just a brief summary of the profile of the author of this book. Now, the core message of this book is this: no matter how competent a person is, they will not have sustained and lasting success unless they can effectively lead themselves, influence, engage and collaborate with others, and continuously improve and renew their capabilities. That is just the message that this whole book is passing across. I repeat, the core message of this book is what? It's telling us that no matter how competent a person is, they will not have, please, you can see that I underline that word there, sustained. They will not have sustained and lasting success unless they can effectively, 1, lead themselves, 2, influence, 3, engage and collaborate with others, and then finally we have the continuous improvement and renewal. And if you look at the base, the 7 habits, they all fall under what we are talking about here. Just because of time, remember that we are not going to look at the 7 habits today, but these points here, they all include the 7 habits. In fact, the last point, continuous improve and renewal, is actually talking about the 7 habits, which has to do with you going back to revisit and improve on yourself, revisiting everything you have learned, and your improving on your ethics, on your behavior, and so on and so forth. That's the last one there. So, and if you also look at the book as well, it talked about success growth. It talks about dependency, talk about independence. It also talked about interdependence. And the dependence is where we have the first 3 habits, and then we have the interdependence and the independence, where we have the 4, 5, and 6 habits. As time goes on, we are going to understand more about this. It's unfortunate that most of us haven't read the book, so it may not really go well now. Now, there's a quote I got from the book, and the quote says that you are not your habits. you are not your habit. You see, most times or some of the time, we have been told, or some persons have been told that, oh, that in fact, that you behave this way, that it is very difficult for you to break away from this. There are some persons that have this belief system that, oh, that they inherited this either from their parents, or they inherited this either from their grandparents, or they got this behavior when they were a child. And so it is now difficult for them to break away from such habits. Now, this book lets us to know that you are actually different. In fact, there is a thick line between you and your habit. It's all about you separating yourself from them. So you are not your habit. That is one of the quotes I got from there. And he said, habits can be broken and new ones can be formed. No matter the habits you have inculcated into yourself over the years, those habits can actually be broken. Those habits can actually be put aside and new habits can be formed. And this book helps us to see how we can break ourselves away from those habits which are not productive. It helps us to see how we can overcome habits that are pulling us down, that are not making us to achieve that success that we want to achieve, and give us a new habit that we can now embrace and will lead us into achieving that which we want to achieve. That is what this book is saying. Now, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey is a self-improvement book. It is written on Covey's belief that the way we see the world is entirely based on our own perception. Now, this book started with complaints from people. We are just talking about how their family used to be loved, and then all of a sudden problem comes and they cannot fix it. This one complains how he would try as much as possible to help his employees, to give employees the best, but at the end, the employees don't give their best. Once the owner is not around, the employee tends to, begin to play to the gallery and so on and so forth. So many persons, you're coming with different complaints and so on and so forth. Now, in this book, Covey talked about perception. He gave an example of a picture where some people view the picture, they say that the picture is an old woman. Some view the picture, some say it's a young lady. So there was this kind of argument, and he made us understand that everything was just based on the people's perception, on how they view that picture. So he said that the way we see the world is entirely based on our own perceptions. In order to change a given situation, he said we must change ourselves. And in order to change ourselves, he said we must be able to change our perceptions. And that our perceptions, sometimes they also use the word paradigm for perceptions. Okay, so this is a very important note for us here. It says, in order to change a given situation, we must change ourselves. And in order to change ourselves, we must be able to change the way we see things. Perceptions or paradigms are actually how you view the world, not based on this your sight, your physical sight now, but based on your understanding or the insights you are getting from your view. So, like we said, in that book, he gave a picture, and some people were seeing that picture as an old woman. Some were seeing it as a young woman that is between the age of 20 or so. So he was saying that the two groups are not wrong. They are only interpreting what they see. They're only interpreting what they see, and that what they see also will also affect the way they relate to that particular thing, and that is what that is all about. So the book opens with an explanation of how many individuals who have achieved a high degree of outward success still find themselves struggling with an inner need for developing personal effectiveness and growing healthy relationships with other people. So sometimes when you look at people who are successful, in quotes, who are successful in your eyes, you will discover that some of them actually have this inner need. Some of them have this unsatisfaction within them. Some of them have one or two things that they are not happy about. Okay, and you may not really understand these things or see these things except they have to open up to you. Okay, so this book started with so many complaints, like I've said earlier, of people talking about various things, about their family, about their job, about their pay, about how they wanted to improve on their self, but yet they are finding it difficult. So this book will help us to overcome all those struggling, all the struggling we have inside of us. So that is what this book is all about. I repeat, it says the book opens with an explanation of how many individuals who have achieved a high degree of outward success still find themselves struggling with an inner need for developing personal effectiveness and growing healthy relationships with other people. So personal effectiveness is very, very important. That is what most of us, that is what we yearn for. We want a situation whereby we can be successful in whatsoever we're doing. We want to make sure that we are able to achieve our desired result. We want to make sure that we are able to set goals and attain or achieve those goals. Now, if you're not able to set goals and achieve them, means that you are lacking something. And that is what this book tried to address. Now, some persons may be successful in their business. When it comes to wealth, they have wealth. When it comes to business, they have growing business that is moving outrightly, but they have problem with their relationships in their family, in their homes. So discover that some successful persons, their success is not holistic. It's just one-sided. And that is what this book tries to address, how you can be effective personally, and then you can also grow a healthy relationship among your environment, either in your family, within your spouse, between your children, within your co-workers, wherever you find yourself, these two things. And remember, that underlying what I said, is talking about sustained relationship. This is very important. That is what this book addresses. In fact, if you go to this book, you discover that Stephen Covey always hammer on quick fixes, shortcuts. He talks about it, he dislikes it. He said, you can never attain a long-lasting result through looking for shortcuts, quick fixes. No, you must follow through the natural process, which is based on principles. Now, Stephen Covey studied over 200 years of literature. At the course of his life, he was able to study over 200 years of literature on the concept of success. He wanted to know why people are successful. He wanted to know why some persons are more successful than the others. He wanted to know why some persons are successful and later on they are no longer successful. in contrast to those who are successful and then they still maintained their success till the end. So he wanted to know why. So he began his study and began to study over 200 years of literature on the concept of success. So on doing that, he identified a very important change in the way that humans have defined success over time. In fact, it is at the course of this study that he discovered what they call the Pygmalion effect. You can still remember, yeah, the Pygmalion effect. And that is also what they call the expectation theory or so, or self-fulfilling prophecy. So it was at the course of going to this literature that he discovered that Pygmalion effect. And that concept is just a concept that talked about that, that if you have high expectations for somebody or for some persons, those persons tend to improve. They tend to do well because of the expectations you have in them. And if you look at most successful leaders, you discover that most successful leaders normally use this concept to, to help boost their employees or help their workers. And I think our CEO Hakim does that a lot. He will call me and say, Ishmael, I want you to do this. Yeah, I know you can do that. I know you can do that. You are a master writer. Do that. Understand? So once I just hear that, like, nah, this man have given me great expectations. So I want what? To do more. That is what the Pygmalion effect is all about. Is when you have high expectations for people, it's called that those persons tend to do what? Tend to improve because you have given them that high expectation. So he discovered this Pygmalion effect at the cost of studying these 200 years of literature. And also, what actually made him to study, why he discovered this, he was actually having a problem with one of his sons. For those of you who have read that particular aspect, Nishapa, he was having a problem with one of his sons. The son wasn't doing well academically. The son was just backward. Socially, the son wasn't mixing up. And in fact, the son was just a cause of worry to him and his wife. So both of them, they tried as much as possible to encourage the son. They tried to give him some positive vibes. You can do this, all these success quotes, they begin to quote it for him. They begin to, do one or two things, encouraging words, words that can motivate him and inspire him, understand? But along the line, you discover that these things weren't working at all, that they weren't working. So it was at the course of studying this literature that he now got the aha moment, the discovery that he and his wife, even though that they were doing certain things, to help their son, that deep inside of them, that they don't actually see their son as somebody who could make it. Understand? So their actions were totally different from the perception that they have towards their son. And it is that perception that they have towards their son that is what is always making them to go to, to push the boy. You can do this, please go ahead. They encourage him and so on and so forth. But it is that wrong perception that is what is making that child not to really progress. So they had to forget about the son and began to work on themselves. So he and his wife began to work on their own self, and that is where the character effect, the character ethics come in. So they began to work on themselves, on their perception, on how they see their son. So they try to make sure that they don't see him as a weakling. They just allow him to do his thing on his own way. And then along the line, the son began to improve on himself, and the rest is history. So at this course, at the study, in the studying of this 200-year literature, he discovered that the first 150 years, that those who were successful based on what he called the character ethics. And those persons, they had what? Sustained success. But the later 50 years, which was the current year, that those persons, their success were based on what he called the personality ethics. So we are going to look at that. So the character ethics was what he called, was things like integrity, humility, fidelity, temperance, courage, justice, patience, industrial simplicity, and so on and so forth, and the golden rule. So once you look at this, you discover that these are principles, these are concepts that we can find in our religion, we can find them even in our society. These are just natural principles that once you have them, you can succeed. But these principles tend to be neglected. They are not really given their rightful place. And once we overlook them, discover that we end up not having that sustained success that we desire or that we so want. So the character ethics was what the earlier people that he studied in 150 embarked on. But starting around the 1920s, the way people viewed success shifted to what Covey calls the personality effect. Now, the personality ethic. Now, this personality ethic is where success is a function of people's personality, public image, attitudes, and their behavior. And people who focus on this personality ethic, neglecting the character ethic, discover that their success will actually not be sustained, or they will not get what they really want to get. And that was what Covey and his wife, that was what they saw, that was what they discovered. They discovered that all that they just wanted for their son to succeed wasn't actually because of their son. It was basically based on them, understand? It was based on their image. After all, they are professors, and it will not look nice when professors are having a child or a son who is not doing well academically. So all their pushing, all their encouragement was actually based on their own self-image and not on the image of their son. So this was what they discovered. So when we focus on our personality ethic without focusing on the character ethic, then success or our effectiveness can actually not be fully guaranteed. That is what he discovered through that study. Okay, remember I talked about quick fixes, shortcuts to success, magic wand, techniques from the moon, killer strategies. All those techniques you are using, those techniques will only sustain you for a while, but will not give you a long-lasting success. This is what the 7 habits is actually all about, how we can get natural growth, progress naturally to our ladder of success than seeking for quick fixes. Now, please, let's go back to this other slide. Remember, we said attitudes, public image, behaviors. These are what the personality ethic is centered on. But the character ethic is based on natural principles such as integrity, humility, courage, patience, and so on and so forth. So the character ethic is actually based on our moral stance and principles. So he also continued, he said, the way we see the problem is the problem. We must allow ourselves to undergo paradigm shifts, to change ourselves fundamentally and not just alter our attitudes and behaviors on the surface level in order to achieve true change. Now, remember, perception is also the same as your paradigm. Your paradigm is simply how you view the world, your view about a particular thing, your view, not basically, not based on your eyesight anyway, but based on the insight you have gotten either to your senses or based on your understanding of a particular thing. So we must allow ourselves to undergo paradigm shift. Now, he also gave a story about this paradigm shift where he narrated the story about a man who came into, who was traveling and came into the train station or into the train with his children, and the children were just playing, disturbing the whole persons in the plane. And he was judged by the man and wondering why the man couldn't control his children from playing and disturbing the whole persons around. So, and he couldn't bear it anymore, so he had to tap the man and ask the man, please, can you please see how you can control these children that are just disturbing, shouting, tearing down things everywhere. And the man quietly raised up his head and looked at him and told him that he does not really know how to control these children, that the children just lost their mom. Understand? So he said that at that moment, when he heard that from the man, that his perception about the man actually changed totally. His perception about the whole situation, because initially he was seeing the man as somebody who does not have control over his kids. He was seeing the man as somebody who is just uncaring about the people around, somebody who is just carefree, not wanting peace for the people who are just around. So, but at that point, when the man told him about the situation that he just lost his wife, which is the mother of the kids that are playing up and down, his understanding, his perception, the way he thought, the way he reacted, the way he spoke became totally different from what he had initially had. So he said that once we have a shift in our perception, which is a shift in our paradigm, it's going to actually affect our attitude, it's going to affect our behavior, it's going to affect, in fact, everything around us. So that the paradigm shift is a very important factor when it comes to achieving personal effectiveness. Because once you don't have that perception, you will be viewing the world through an old lens, an old lens that will be showing you a different picture from what the actual picture is. Now, for those of us who grew up as kids, in the 90s, even currently, you will discover that during Christmas period, during all this festive period, discover that parents will normally buy all these colored eyeglasses, to their children, and they'll wear it and begin to pose. Now, I could remember one particular glass that my mom bought for me then. That glass was a plastic glass, eyeglass, but with a green lens. So each time I put on that specs, you just discover that, I'll just discover that everywhere is just green. Even the human beings are just greenish, understand? So that is just an example of your perception, your paradigm. It's just that lens that you use in viewing the world. So if that lens in which you use in viewing the world is green, if it is wrong, you will be interpreting the whole situation in a wrong way. So that is just what the paradigm is all about. So he talked about this paradigm as part of his book. Okay. So next slide. So so we have actually gotten to the last point, which is this. So basically, the 7 habits of highly effective people is broken down into 3 parts. And we have the first part, which has to do with habit 1, 2, and 3. And it's they are focused on self-mastery and moving from dependence to independence. And then we have the second part, which includes the habit 4, habit 5, habit 6, which are focused on developing teamwork, collaboration, and communication skills, and moving from independence to interdependence. And then we have the last habit, which is habit 7, which is focused on continuous growth and improvement and embodies all the other habits. So this is kind of a wrap-up of what the overview or the first part of the program is all about. So I don't know if there's any question before we go further. Any question? Any question? You can type in the chat. Are you out there? Can you guys hear me? Hope I'm not I've not been cut off. Okay.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
I just want to say that while talking about the slides, it is only the 7 habits of highly effective people that we have. Other ones, they are not with us. So I just want to say that by the time that I go to the next one, we should be having the slides. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, today we are not looking at the whole 7 habits. Today I just want to just give us an overview, the preamble of what the course is and the course is all about, the book is all about, what it's centered on. Okay. And okay, for me to keep us working, let me ask, is there anybody who can list the 7 habits for us? I know in our next meeting, we are going to look at the 7 habits individually, but is there anybody that can just maybe type it in the chat and then list the 7 habits for us? Just list. I didn't say you should explain. No. I know Mr. Kim has posted this before on our platform. Can help us. Habit 1, what does habit 1 say? Habit 2, what does it say? Habit 3, and so on and so forth. The chat box is open, please. Okay, somebody say he has finished reading it. Wow, fantastic. Okay. Habit 1, be proactive. Thank you. Habit 2, begin with the end in mind. Yes. Habit 3, first thing first. Habit 4, think win-win. Yes. Habit 5, who can give us habit 5? Somebody say perseverance. No, that's not part of the habits. Habit 5, that could be under principle. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Thank you, Esther. I think that's Esther, right? Okay. Then habit 6 is synergy, that is to synergize. And habit 7 is to sharpen the saw. So thank you very much. These are the 7 habits that we are going to look at in our next program or meeting. So please, if there's any question, let's ask. Remember that the core message is that no matter how competent the person is, no matter how competent you are, you will not have sustained and lasting success unless what you can effectively lead yourself, influence, engage, collaborate with others, and continuously improve and renew your capabilities. That is just a message about the program. Okay, so please, question. I think I'm done with my presentation today. If there is no question, can wrap up. Where is Arinzo? Arinzo, I hope you are still here.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so how do I go back to the screen now?
You did not even put it in presentation mode before. So continue.
It was in presentation mode.
You did not put it in presentation. Go to that part I mentioned to you. If you click it, it will change the interface of this screen.
Are you serious? I've not been in presentation mode, Chineke. Oh my God.
Go back to the down part, near that 80% or something. Is that 80? Yes.
Okay, I'm coming. I should go back to the part. I'm there now.
Yes, that's click it.
I've clicked it. Yes.
That's the way it's showing on your Zoom. You need to go out of, you need to stop sharing, then share again, this current one. That's why it's not showing that way.
Okay. Okay. Let me stop sharing. Okay. Okay. But first of all, let me just look at the charts. My time is almost up. Say kudos, sir. Proactive to begin with the end in mind. Okay. We are going to look at all these ones in our subsequent meetings. Okay. Seek first, understand. Okay, I'll look at those ones. Okay. So I guess there are no more questions. I think most of us haven't read the book, so that's why we can't actually ask questions the way we would have asked. Okay. Madam Fatima, are you up? Is Madam Fatima here? Okay, I can see James Patrick. You are putting up your hands. Okay, you can please unmute yourself and ask question. James Patrick. James Patrick, I can see your hands. James. Okay. Yeah, somebody say, can you brief us about the circle of concern and the circle of what do you call it again? Influence. Okay, I think all these ones we are going to look at those ones in our other classes. Okay, but the circle of concern are those things that are out of your reach, those ones which you cannot control. Okay, why the circle of influence are those things which you can actually control yourself. So the book is asking us that for us to be effective, we have to start by focusing on the things which we can actually control and not on those things we cannot control, such as the weather and so on and so forth, government policies and so on and so forth. Start with what you can actually control, your character, your behavior, and so on and so forth. Just begin to work on that, and then your income, your job, these are the things you can actually control, because they are things that you can make choice of either to do or not to do. So they are actually your circle of concern. I mean, they are actually your circle of influence, while your circle of concern is those which you cannot control. So we are going to look at those ones later. But remember, today is just kind of an overview of the kind of preamble into what the course is all about. So if there is no question, since James Patrick, your hand, it's like you don't want to ask question, let's call it a day. Thank you very much for attending our class today. So we hope to see you next time to continue from the 7 habits. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Yeah, bye.